This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Filmmaker Max Votolato has lived in Los Angeles for 14 years, holding staff jobs at a number of major media companies around town. He's originally from South London, though, and a graduate of the London College of Communications film and video program. His latest film, Freeway City, is the story of Gardena, California, the one-time poker capital of the world. Hello, Max. Welcome.
It is.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
We are delighted to be talking with you. You know, I was just thinking, graduating from the London College of Communications is a big deal. What first got you interested in making films?
You know, I grew up in, like you said, South London. My neighbor as a kid was Terry Jones, who
Wow.
is a movie director, part of Monty Python. And, Terry's son Bill's around my age, we were in class together. So we took Terry's Super 8 camera out, and later his Video 8 camera, made our first films together in the neighborhood. And that was my first foray into filmmaking. And it's funny, other neighbors in this community were also involved with media. I had another neighbor named Lawrence Posma who had a company named Yo-Yo Films. And he made documentaries for Channel 4 in London. So as a teenager, I was his trainee, and I would go out on these shoots and learn about documentary filmmaking. The London College of Communications used to be called the London College of Printing when I went through, but it's not a printing school. It was just a media school. And they had a very documentary approach, too. So somehow I've always been involved in documentary.
Well, your most recent film is Freeway City, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But you've also done a number of other documentaries. What are some of your past projects?
It was a project called Italian Americans in Federal Hill. And similar to Freeway City, was about the community of Federal Hill. I was an associate producer on the project, and I shot many of the interviews. So that was almost a training ground for doing this project. It was one of the early inspirations to do a feature-length documentary like this. But more recently, I worked on a series called On Patrol, which was all about the cops in Santa Barbara. It was a police ride-along reality program, docu-style also. And it's now on Hulu, but you can see that it's another documentary project chronicling the Santa Barbara PD. And I've also worked on the series Cosmos: A Space-Time Odyssey. I was a unit manager on that show. And that was a great experience for learning how to make documentaries for broadcast and deal with the clearances and many of the other intricacies of getting films broadcast ready. Also, I produced a short film for Jason Clark, who's the producer of the TED movies. He was also a producer on Cosmos for the Breakthrough Initiatives Group. That was my most recent work.
What is it about documentaries that appeals to you, as opposed to narrative or fiction?
Well, I'm a big fan of the format because it's something I could do myself. I wanted to make movies, and I didn't have the financial resources to do a big narrative film or dramatization of a lot of the ideas I have. So I can be a one-man band and go out with my own camera and interview people, and then almost do the post-production alone too. So it's an accessible format.
All right, well, let's talk about your newest project, which is Freeway City. And I love the subtitle, which is the one-time poker capital of the world. How can you not love a subtitle like that?
Yeah.
What was it about the story that attracted you?
Well, a lot of things. I wanted to make a film about Los Angeles. I was very inspired by the Mike Davis book, City of Quartz. And I was looking to tell a story about Los Angeles. And it's funny, I discovered Gardena inadvertently. I was making another film about the Southern California bail bonds community. And one of the bail agents who I was profiling that guy named Francisco Rodriguez has a company called Hollywood Bail Bonds. And it's not in Hollywood, it's in Gardena. So I started spending a lot of time in the area. And his unofficial office is a bar called the Desert Room on Gardena Boulevard. So this became one of our key hangouts. And it was instrumental to Freeway City because it started to build the network for the film in terms of the community and hearing the stories and the history of Gardena. I didn't know about Gardena. And when I tell these stories to friends, things that I was picking up, nobody else had heard about Gardena, the history. There are some poker clubs there still now, but at one time it was a major poker destination with 6 clubs, and it was one of the only places in California you could play legally. So it's not just the poker story. It's the chronological history, probably 85 years of the city since it was incorporated, and I think it touches on a lot of things that are SoCal-centric, and it's an original untold story, so to me it was just a great opportunity.
So what is the story? Give us the one-paragraph version of the plot.
Well, Gardena was many things to many people. In the early days, it's an agricultural community that was white and Japanese American, and then Pearl Harbor happened. There was the internment of the Japanese Americans, and the post-war Gardena started. Made the city a very different place. Poker clubs came in. They'd already been there before the war, but that's when the poker community got very strong there. And then you have this whole battle that went on between the clubs. Then in the late 60s, the Japanese-American story became very important to the city because Gardena became a gateway to Japanese corporations that wanted to come to the United States. So big corporations like Honda, Toyota, Nissan, Hitachi all made their entrance into the United States through Gardena because the city's leadership was Japanese-American, they spoke the language, and they were able to impart our culture and customs and kind of show the Japanese-American the Japanese corporations coming into America how our society works. So it was a big selling point to them, and it became an area where they set up their formal U.S. headquarters in the early days.
So as you were making the film, how many people did you interview, and did you do it all yourself? What kind of gear? Talk about the production process for a minute.
I interviewed 35 people, and they were all about 2-hour interviews, 2 to 3 hour interviews each. I shot the film on a Sony FX1, which is an HD camcorder shooting a mini DV tape. My process when I do these interviews is I'd set the camera up and then I'd sit by the camera and do the interview. And so very simple. The interviewees were mic'd with a lavalier and it was wired to camera. I miss shooting the tape because solid state media is not always as reliable as those old tapes were. So very simple, and usually it was a sit-down interview, but on occasion I went out in the car or I'd be walking with someone. So again, very kind of run and gun style. And then I posted the film in Final Cut Pro mostly. In the beginning, I started in Final Cut Pro 5, and then the project graduated with the new releases, so I went to 6 and 7. And then ultimately brought it into Adobe Creative Cloud for the finishing. But at that point, the film was, really built. I didn't do an XML export to bring it into Premiere. I took it out as one big chunk of video, and then I did the sound work and my titles.
Now, one of the things I was very impressed with is you did not only a lot of B-roll, a lot of Ken Burns-style moves on still images, but a lot of historical footage. How did you find the historical footage, and what's the licensing process like? It's
key. It came from a lot of sources. Most of the footage was from the Prelinger archives, so it's public domain footage. And that's always the battle when you're doing these things, because you want to get away from the talking heads as much as possible and give the story momentum. And, there is no footage of these card clubs. Even now it's hard to bring a camera into a casino. It's always a problem. So, when I could, I'd find archival footage that matched the stories and gave me kinetics there. But then, many times it was just photographs that I'd have, or maps or headlines, and you'd have to make them move just to keep the film some energy, and get away from those talking heads. I got my first round of photographs from the city of Gardena. They had done a project with a company called Arcadia Publishing, and they published these, you see them in Barnes and Nobles, these books about small towns. They'll put together a heritage community, and they go across the country. So they've done a lot of the work compiling their pictorial history of the city. And then that gave me a head start. But even that book didn't have a lot of pictures of casinos or card clubs. So I was able, through my interviewees, to get pictures. There was one interviewee in particular, Blaine Nicholson, who had been a publicist for Ernie Prim, who's kind of the central figure in the story of the card clubs. And he had an amazing archive of photographs that he just kind of scrapbooked, and he had, photo albums, and we shot a 3-hour interview at his home in San Diego, and at the end of it, he pulled out these books, and it was like everything I'd never seen before but had heard of. So I sat for 2 hours with a scanner at his coffee table, and we scanned these images together, and he would talk me through them and give me notes on who the people in the photographs were and what when these pictures were taken, and that was a huge resource. Toyota, the company Toyota, gave me access to their photo archive. A lot of it had to do with the early days of that company in the United States, so there was plenty of pictures of the area from them, and they even had film of their original cars being tested, old car commercials and things like that. There's a gentleman in the film, George Castro, who's a photographer for the city of Gardena, and many of his pictures are in the film too. I was lucky to work with some really talented After Effects artists who were able to make those pictures come alive, and that's a lot of what you see also in those sequences.
I noticed the film is online, and for people that are watching, they can see the website. It's freewaycity.org. But what are your plans for distribution? And are you hoping to make money on this, or is this a project for love?
Well, it's in the beginning, it was a different world in terms of distribution. And I had big dreams about coming out on DVD. This has been a long time project. I've been doing this on and off for 10 years. I started in 2005. And, I've worked these jobs and done this in my own time. So it's taken a long time to get it across the finish line. And, maybe it still does have a chance for distribution. To me, at this point, it's more important for the film to be seen. And I noticed that filmmakers are starting to use video that way just to get, eyeballs on your film. And the outreach through Facebook and other social media tools, bringing an audience to the film is incredible. I'm finding my audience online now and getting their feedback, and it's a real pleasure.
So now that you've got this one on toward the finish line, what are you working on next, or are you just going to take a long nap?
No, I'm very excited about this project, and I feel that there's another film in there. There was so much that didn't make it into this cut of Freeway City that I'm very optimistic about another documentary, and maybe even a dramatization of some of these stories.
That could be fun. What website can people go to, people that want to see the film?
The film is on freewaycity.org, and you can follow the film also on Twitter at Freeway City Film, and my personal Twitter is @Votolato.
And Max Votolato is the producer, director, writer, researcher, camera, and editor for Freeway City. Max, thanks for talking with us. I wish you great success with the film.
Thanks
Take
very
care.
much. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. To stay connected and receive updates from The Buzz, sign up for our free weekly newsletter now. or you can learn more about us on our website. And thanks for watching The Digital Production Buzz.